3 men in suits that cost more than my truck just walked into my kitchen. My husband, the mechanic everyone mocked, is telling them how to wire $200,000. My cousin's face has gone white. The lawyer just called him Mr. Coleman. Not Reed. Mr. Coleman. And I'm realizing I don't know the man I married. At all. Family, welcome back to our channel, where we bring you emotional stories of love. Because in truth, love and death cannot be escaped. No one can say when, how, or where. It's never too early or too late. If you're new to this channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification button right now so you don't miss what happens next. And if you're one of our returning viewers, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Now, stay with us to the end of this story. Leave a comment with your thoughts and like this video. Let's continue. 3 hours earlier, Ruby had been crying in the bathroom. The letter from First National Bank sat on the kitchen counter. Final notice. $200,000 due immediately or foreclosure proceedings will begin. Her grandmother's farm. For generations of Hayes women had worked this land, and Ruby was going to be the one who lost it. She splashed cold water on her face. The bathroom mirror showed a 26-year-old woman who looked 40. Hair in a messy bun, circles under her eyes from working double shifts at the farmer's market and the feed store. She'd been so tired lately. Ruby. Reed's voice through the door. Gentle. Always gentle. She opened the door. He stood in the hallway of the farmhouse they'd moved into after her grandmother passed, wearing his usual worn jeans and a faded t-shirt. His dark hair still had that permanent tousle, like he'd just run his hand through it. Green eyes searched her face. "I'm okay," she lied. He pulled her into his arms. He smelled like soap and coffee. She let herself lean into him for 10 seconds, all she could afford before the weight of everything crushed her again. "We'll figure it out," he said. "How?" The word came out sharper than she meant. "We don't have $200, Reed. Let alone 200,000. His jaw tightened. Something flickered across his face, there and gone before she could name it. "Let me make some calls." "Calls to who?" "We already talked to the bank. They won't extend. Trust me." He kissed her forehead. "Please. Just trust me." Then he went outside, phone already to his ear. Ruby watched him through the window. He paced the gravel driveway, one hand in his pocket, speaking to someone she couldn't hear. His shoulders were set different. Straighter. He gestured with his free hand. Sharp, decisive movements she'd never seen from him before. A chill ran down her spine. She didn't know why. The knock came 40 minutes later. Ruby opened the door to find 3 people in business attire standing on her grandmother's porch. The man in front, silver hair, expensive watch, smiled like he'd practiced it. "Mrs. Coleman? I'm Richard Price, with Morrison, Price and Associates. We're here on behalf of your husband." Her stomach dropped. "Is he hurt? Did something?" "He's fine. He asked us to come discuss the situation with the farm." Ruby stared. Morrison. Price and Associates. She'd seen their billboards on the highway. They were the kind of lawyers who handled corporate mergers and million-dollar lawsuits. Not mechanics' wives losing family farms. "I think there's been a mistake." "No mistake." The woman behind him smiled. "May we come in?" Reed appeared from around the side of the house. He'd changed into clean jeans and a button-down shirt she'd never seen before. It fit him perfectly. He looked different. Older somehow. More settled into his skin. "It's okay, Ruby. Let them in." She stepped aside. Her hands were shaking. The lawyers set up in the kitchen like they'd done it 1,000 times. Laptops, documents, a portable printer that Ruby didn't even know existed. The silver-haired man, Mr. Price, sat at the head of the table. Reed sat beside him. Ruby stood by the sink, arms crossed. "Someone want to tell me what's going on?" Reed met her eyes. "I'm taking care of the farm." "With what money?" "Mine." The word hung there. Ruby's laugh came out wrong. Too high, too sharp. "Reed, you work at Coleman's Auto. You make $12 an hour." I own Coleman's Auto. His voice was quiet. Among other things. The room tilted. Ruby gripped the counter. What? Mr. Price cleared his throat. Mrs. Coleman, your husband is Reed Alexander Coleman III. He's the sole heir to Coleman Tech Industries. His great-grandfather founded the company in 1952. Current net worth is approximately $3.2 billion. The words were English. Ruby heard them. They didn't make sense. That's... She looked at Reed. At her husband. The man who'd fixed her truck for free. Who'd proposed with a simple silver band because that's what he said he could afford. Who'd told her parents he was saving up for a down payment on a better trailer. That's insane. Reed stood. Took a step toward her. Ruby. Don't. She held up a hand. Her voice cracked. Just. Give me a second. She couldn't breathe. The kitchen was too small. All those lawyers, their expensive shoes on her grandmother's worn linoleum. Reed standing there looking like a stranger. Her phone buzzed. Her mother. Jennifer says there are fancy cars at the farm. Everything okay? Of course Jennifer had noticed. Her cousin lived a quarter-mile down the road and treated the farm like her personal surveillance project. Ever since Ruby had married Reed, Jennifer had made it her mission to remind Ruby, constantly, that she'd married beneath herself. That mechanic, Jennifer had called him at Thanksgiving. You could have had Bobby Westfield, Ruby, doctor's son. But no. You had to marry the guy who changes oil filters. Ruby had defended him. Over and over. To her cousin, to the church ladies, to her mother's bridge club. She'd held her head high every time someone made a comment about Reed's beat-up truck or his trailer or the fact that he'd never been to college. And the whole time, he'd been a billionaire. Why? The word came out as a whisper. She looked at him, really looked. The lawyers were watching them both. Why would you lie? I didn't lie. Reed's hands were in his pockets now. I just didn't correct people's assumptions. You let them mock you. All of them. Jennifer called you. Her throat closed. She couldn't say it. I know what she called me. His voice was steady. I didn't care. Well, I cared. The words exploded out. I defended you. I lost friends over you. My mother cried at our wedding because she thought I was throwing my life away. Would you rather I had told you? He took another step closer. On our second date. Hi, Ruby. I know we've been talking for 2 weeks, but I should mention I'm worth billions? You would have run. She wanted to argue. Couldn't. He was right. She would have run. Mr. Price cleared his throat delicately. Perhaps we should give you two some privacy. No. Ruby straightened her spine. Years of Hayes women standing tall kicked in. Stay. You're here about the farm. She looked at Reed. What's the plan? Something shifted in his expression. Relief, maybe. He gestured to the table. Sit. Please. She sat. Her grandmother's chair. The wood was worn smooth from decades of Sunday dinners and early morning coffee. Reed sat beside her. Not at the head of the table like Mr. Price. Beside her. Close enough that their shoulders almost touched. The firm has already contacted First National, Mr. Price said, pulling up documents on his laptop. We've arranged to pay off the full balance. $200,000 plus fees. The foreclosure proceedings will be canceled immediately. The farm will remain in your name, Mrs. Coleman. In my name. Ruby looked at Reed. Not yours. Your grandmother left it to you, Reed said quietly. It's yours. I'm just making sure you don't lose it. With your money. With our money. His hand found hers under the table. Warm, calloused from actual work. Familiar. We're married, Ruby. What's mine is yours. She wanted to pull away. Couldn't make herself do it. I don't want your money. I know. He smiled, small, sad. That's why I married you. A car door slammed outside. Footsteps on the porch. Then the front door burst open without a knock. Jennifer stood in the doorway, her perfectly highlighted hair swept into a ponytail. her yoga pants designer brand. Her eyes went huge when she saw the lawyers, the laptops, Reed sitting there like he belonged. "Ruby." Jennifer's voice was too loud. "What's going on? Why are there Mercedes in your driveway?" Ruby opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Reed stood, extended his hand to Jennifer. "Reed Coleman. We met at Thanksgiving. You called me that mechanic, if I remember correctly." Jennifer's face went red. She took his hand automatically. That was just. "Mr. Price, could you pull up the company overview?" Reed's voice had changed. Smoother. Confident. The voice of someone used to boardrooms and conference calls. The lawyer turned his laptop. Jennifer's eyes scanned the screen. Ruby watched the color drain from her cousin's face. "Oh my God," Jennifer breathed. You're Reed Coleman. Like the Coleman family." "Just Reed is fine." He sat back down next to Ruby, dismissing Jennifer like she was a mosquito. "Mr. Price, let's discuss the timeline for the transfer." Jennifer was still standing in the doorway, mouth open. Ruby felt something hard and cold settle in her chest. This was the moment. The moment everyone would know. The gossip would spread through Millbrook like wildfire. Ruby Hayes married a secret billionaire. The girl they'd all pitied was now the richest woman in 3 counties. She should feel vindicated. She just felt hollow. Family, if you watched this story up to this point, it means it moved you. Leave your thoughts and tell me where you are watching from in the comment, and make sure to like and hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Smash the hype button now if you found value in this content. It really helps my channel. Over the next 3 weeks, Ruby's life transformed in ways she hadn't imagined. The lawyers handled everything with quiet efficiency. The farm was secured. The bank apologized, profusely, for the misunderstanding. Bills that had kept Ruby awake at night vanished. The ancient tractor that had been held together with prayer and baling wire was replaced with a new one that appeared in the barn with a red bow. Reed kept going to work at the auto shop. Every morning at 7, beat-up truck rumbling down the driveway. "You don't have to," Ruby said one morning, watching him lace his work boots. "I like it." He looked up at her. "It's honest work. Makes me feel useful." "You could feel useful doing anything. You could buy the whole town." "I don't want to buy the town." He stood, kissed her cheek. "I just want to fix cars and come home to you." She wanted to believe him. Wanted to fall back into the easy rhythm they'd had before the lawyers, before the truth. But every time she looked at him now, she saw a stranger wearing her husband's face. The town noticed immediately, of course. Millbrook had 3,000 people on a good day. Secrets didn't last long. Jennifer had told her book club. Her book club had told their husbands. By the end of the first week, everyone knew that Ruby Hayes had married Reed Coleman III and never said a word. The invitations started arriving. Dinner parties. Charity events. The country club membership Ruby's family had never been able to afford, suddenly available with a handwritten note. "We'd be honored to have you and your husband join us." Ruby threw most of them away. But her mother kept one. Pressed it into Ruby's hands during Sunday dinner at the farmhouse. The spring gala. "It's the biggest event of the year." "I'm not going to some stuffy party, Mom. Jennifer will be there." Her mother's voice was careful. "With Bobby Westfield." You remember Bobby. Ruby remembered. Jennifer had been dating Bobby, the doctor's son, the golden boy, for 6 months. She'd made sure Ruby knew about it at every opportunity, especially after Ruby had married Reed. "Bobby's taking me to the gala," Jennifer had said at Christmas, her voice dripping honey. "Of course, it's invitation only. Very exclusive. I'm sure you and Reed will have a nice quiet evening at home." Reed walked in from the barn, wiping his hands on a rag. He'd spent the afternoon fixing the fence line. He could have hired someone. Instead, he'd done it himself, coming in with dirt on his jeans and satisfaction on his face. He saw the invitation in Ruby's hand. "What's that?" "Nothing." She tried to shove it in her pocket. He plucked it from her fingers. "Read it." His expression didn't change. You want to go? No. Liar. He smiled, that gentle smile that had made her fall for him in the first place. You want to see Jennifer's face when we walk in. Ruby's mother made a noise that might have been a laugh. I didn't raise my daughter to be petty. No, Reed said, eyes still on Ruby. But you did raise her to stand up for herself. And she's had to defend me for 6 months to people who thought I wasn't good enough. He folded the invitation carefully. I think it's time I returned the favor. That night, after her mother left, Ruby found Reed on the porch. He sat in the old swing, the one that creaked when you pushed off. Stars spread across the sky. No city lights out here to dim them. She sat beside him. The swing groaned. You don't have to do this, she said. I want to. Reed. She pulled her knees up. I didn't marry you for money. You know that, right? I know. His arm came around her shoulders. She let herself lean into him. That's why I didn't tell you about it. But you lied by omission. I did. He was quiet for a moment. The cicadas sang in the trees. My whole life, people have wanted me for what I could give them. Money, connections, opportunities. When I met you at the farmer's market, you were selling tomatoes and trying to convince an old lady that heirloom tomatoes were worth the extra $1. Ruby remembered. She'd been so focused on the sale, she hadn't even noticed him watching. You were so real, Reed continued. You worked 3 jobs. You took care of your grandmother. You drove a truck held together with duct tape and sheer determination. And when I asked you out, you said no because you had to inventory the feed store that night. You came back 4 times. 5. His chest shook with silent laughter. You told me no 5 times before you said yes. You were persistent. I was desperate. He turned to look at her. In the dark, his eyes were just shadows. I wanted someone to love me for who I am, not what I have. And you did. You defended me to your family, to your friends, to complete strangers who thought you were crazy for marrying a mechanic. You loved me when you thought I had nothing. Ruby's throat burned. I still don't know who you are. Yes, you do. His hand found hers. I'm the guy who fixed your truck for free, who helped your grandmother with her garden, who proposed to you in the barn with hay in my hair because I couldn't wait another day. The money doesn't change that. It changes everything. Does it? He squeezed her hand. You're still you. I'm still me. We still live on this farm. I still work at the shop. The only difference is now the bank isn't calling and you can sleep through the night without worrying. She wanted to argue, wanted to stay angry, but sitting there with him, the night warm around them, she felt the knot in her chest loosen just a little. I hate that everyone's going to treat us different now, she whispered. They will. He pulled her closer. But Ruby, I don't care what they think. I never did. The only person whose opinion matters to me is yours. She closed her eyes. I need time. I know. He kissed the top of her head. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. They sat like that until the moon rose, casting silver across the fields. Ruby thought about the first time Reed had kissed her. Nervous and sweet, asking permission first. She thought about their wedding, tiny and perfect, just family and close friends in the little church. She thought about the way he'd cried when her grandmother died, holding Ruby while she fell apart. The money didn't erase those memories, but it tinted them different now, like looking at a photograph through colored glass. The gala is in 2 weeks, Reed said finally. We don't have to go. Ruby thought about Jennifer, about Bobby Westfield, about every person who'd looked at her with pity for the past 6 months. We're going, she said. But I'm buying my own dress. Ruby. With my own money, Reed. That's non-negotiable. He was quiet. Then, okay. But I'm buying my own tux. Fair. Fair. The next morning, Ruby's best friend May showed up at the farm with coffee and determination. May had been Ruby's friend since 3rd grade, the kind of friend who'd helped her dye her hair in high school and held her hand at her grandmother's funeral. May ran the local feed store and didn't take nonsense from anyone. She walked into the kitchen, set down 2 cups of coffee, and stared at Ruby. "So," May said, "you married a billionaire." "Apparently. And you didn't know." "Correct." May sat down hard in a chair. "That's either the best luck or the worst luck I've ever heard." "I don't know which it is yet. Are you okay?" May's voice softened. "Really okay?" Ruby wrapped her hands around the coffee cup. It was warm, solid, real. "I don't know that either. He's still Reed. But also, he's not. Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense." May took a sip of her coffee. "For what it's worth. I always liked him. He helped me move those feed bags last month when my back went out. Didn't ask for anything, didn't make a big deal. Just helped. He's good at that. Helping. The money doesn't make him a different person, Ruby. It just means he had options you didn't know about." May paused. "Question is, do you still love him?" Ruby opened her mouth, closed it. "Thought about Reed in the barn last night. Fixing the fence because he liked working with his hands. Thought about the way he'd pulled her close on the porch, patient while she sorted through her feelings. Yeah," she said finally. "I do. I feel stupid for not knowing." "How could you have known? He was working at a shop, living simply, treating you like you were the most important thing in his world. Which clearly you are." May reached across the table, squeezed Ruby's hand. "Talk to him. Really talk. Figure out what you need from him to make this work." Ruby nodded. May was right. They'd been dancing around the real conversation for weeks. That evening, Ruby asked Reed to take a walk. They followed the fence line as the sun set, painting the sky orange and pink. The summer air was heavy with the smell of honeysuckle. "I need to understand something," Ruby said. "Why here? Why Millbrook? If you're worth billions, why work at an auto shop in a town where the biggest excitement is Friday night football?" Reed was quiet for a long moment. "My father died when I was 12. Heart attack. Left me and my mother with more money than we could spend in 10 lifetimes. He picked up a stick, tossed it. She remarried when I was 16. Guy who saw dollar signs, not a family. By the time I was 20, I'd been through 3 stepmothers and couldn't trust anyone who knew my last name." Ruby's chest ached. She'd never heard this story. "I ran the company for 5 years after college. Hated every minute. Everyone wanted something. Dates were transactions. Friends were investments. I felt like a walking checkbook." He stopped, turned to face her. "Then my therapist suggested I take a break. Find somewhere no one knew me. Live like a normal person for a while. So you came to Millbrook. Best decision I ever made." His smile was soft. "I got to be just Reed for the first time in my life. Fixed cars because I liked fixing things. Made friends who didn't want anything from me. And met a woman who told me no 5 times before agreeing to one date." Ruby felt tears prick her eyes. "I don't know how to reconcile this. The Reed I married and the Reed Coleman III everyone's talking about. They're the same person, Ruby. I promise." He took her hands. "Everything I told you was true. I just left out the part about the trust fund. I should have told you before we got married. That was wrong. But I was terrified you'd look at me different." "I do look at you different," she admitted. His face fell. "I know. But Reed." She squeezed his hands. "I still see you. Under all of it. I still see my husband." Hope flickered in his eyes. "Yeah. Yeah." She pulled him close. "We're going to that gala. And we're going to figure this out. Together." He kissed her. Soft and searching like their first kiss. When they pulled apart, the sky was full dark, stars scattered like diamonds. "I love you," he whispered. "With or without the money. Just you." "I love you too," she said. And meant it. "Now let's go home. We have a party to prepare for." The spring gala was held at the Magnolia Country Club, a sprawling white building with columns that were supposed to look elegant but mostly looked pretentious. Ruby had driven past it hundreds of times growing up, never imagining she'd walk through those doors. Now she stood in front of her bedroom mirror in a dress she'd bought with her own money. Deep blue, simple, elegant. Nothing flashy. She wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. Except maybe herself. Reed appeared in the doorway, adjusting his cufflinks. He'd insisted on renting a tux from the local shop rather than having something tailored. Compromise. They were getting better at those. "You look beautiful," he said. "You clean up nice yourself." She turned from the mirror. "Ready? Are you?" Good question. Ruby took a breath. Jennifer would be there with Bobby. Her mother's bridge club. Everyone who'd whispered about her for the past 6 months. Everyone who'd looked at Reed like he wasn't good enough to breathe the same air. "Let's do this," she said. The country club parking lot was full of expensive cars. Reed's beat-up truck looked out of place between a BMW and a Lexus. Several people turned to stare as they climbed out. "Should have let me bring the Aston Martin," Reed murmured. "You have an Aston Martin?" "3, actually. And a Bentley. And—" "Stop talking." He grinned. Took her hand. "Yes, ma'am." The main ballroom was decorated with white flowers and twinkling lights. Women in designer dresses clustered near the bar. Men in expensive suits talked business. Everyone looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine. Ruby felt every eye turned toward them. "Ruby Hayes," someone whispered. Not quietly enough. "That's Ruby Coleman now," another voice corrected. "Did you hear? $3 billion. Had no idea. Living on that old farm." Reed's hand tightened on hers. "We can leave." "Not a chance." They walked in. Heads turned. Conversations stopped. Ruby kept her chin up, channeling every ounce of Hayes family pride. Her grandmother had taught her, "Don't let them see you sweat." "Ruby." Her mother materialized from the crowd, wearing a dress Ruby had never seen before. "Oh honey, you look lovely." And Reed. She kissed his cheek, something she'd never done before the reveal. "So handsome." "Hi, Mrs. Hayes." Reed's voice was polite, but Ruby heard the edge underneath. He'd noticed the change too. "Everyone's talking about you too." Her mother's eyes were bright. Excited. Like Ruby had won a prize. "The Hendersons want to meet Reed. And the Pratts. Oh, and maybe later, Mom." Ruby spotted Jennifer across the room. Her cousin wore a red dress that probably cost more than Ruby's truck. Bobby Westfield stood beside her, looking uncomfortable in his suit. Jennifer saw them. Her face went through several expressions. Surprise, calculation, something that might have been envy. Then she smiled. Bright and false. "Ruby." "Reed." Jennifer wove through the crowd. Bobby trailing behind. "I'm so glad you came. Bobby, you remember my cousin Ruby." Bobby extended his hand. "Good to see you, Ruby. Heard a lot about you lately." "I bet." Ruby shook his hand. It was soft. Manicured. Nothing like Reed's calloused grip. Jennifer turned to Reed, her smile sharp. "Reed, this is quite the surprise. You know, when Ruby told us she was marrying a mechanic, we were all so concerned. But obviously we had nothing to worry about." "Obviously," Reed said flatly. "I mean, it's just so romantic." Jennifer's laugh was too loud. "Like a fairy tale. The poor girl marries the secret prince." "I'm not poor," Ruby said quietly. "Never was." Jennifer's smile faltered. "Oh, I didn't mean. And Reed's not a prince. He's my husband. Same as he was 6 months ago when you called him that mechanic at Thanksgiving." The nearby conversations stopped. People turned to listen. Jennifer's face flushed. "Ruby, I was just joking." "Were you?" Ruby took a step forward. Reed's presence was solid behind her. "Because it didn't feel like a joke when you told me I was wasting my potential. When you said I should have waited for someone better. When you made him feel like he wasn't welcome at family dinners. I just wanted what was best for you." "No, you wanted to feel superior." Ruby's voice didn't rise. "Didn't have to. And now that you know Reed has money, suddenly he's good enough?" That's not concern, Jennifer. That's shallow. Jennifer's mouth opened. Closed. Bobby shifted uncomfortably. We should go, Bobby muttered. They left. The crowd parted for them. Ruby watched them go and felt something settle in her chest. Not satisfaction. Just clarity. Reed's hand found the small of her back. You okay? Better than okay. She turned to face him. Dance with me. I'm not very good. I don't care. He led her to the dance floor. The band was playing something slow and sweet. Reed pulled her close, one hand on her waist, the other holding hers. He wasn't a natural dancer, little awkward, counting beats under his breath, but Ruby didn't mind. That was hot, he murmured. What was? You. Standing up to Jennifer. Defending me. His eyes were warm. My fierce wife. I should have done it sooner. You did it when it mattered. He spun her, clumsy but enthusiastic. She laughed despite herself. I'm proud of you. They swayed together, the music washing over them. Ruby closed her eyes. For the first time since the lawyers had shown up, she felt like herself. Like them. The song ended. Another began. They kept dancing. Mr. Coleman? A voice interrupted. A man in an expensive suit approached. Hand extended. Charles Henderson. I own Henderson Manufacturing. I'd love to talk to you about a potential partnership. Not interested, Reed said without looking away from Ruby. It would be very lucrative. Still not interested. Reed's voice was firm. I'm dancing with my wife. Mr. Henderson blinked. Looked at Ruby like he was seeing her for the first time. Of course. Perhaps later. He left. Another man approached. Then another. Each wanting a piece of Reed, a connection, an opportunity. Reed dismissed them all politely but firmly. This is going to keep happening, Ruby said quietly. Isn't it? Probably. Reed pulled her closer. But I don't care about them. I care about you. Reed. She looked up at him. Your life before this. The business. Your family's company. You can't just abandon it. I haven't. I have people running things. Good people. I check in remotely, make major decisions when needed. But day to day. He shook his head. That's not the life I want. What do you want? This. His hand tightened on hers. You. The farm. Fixing cars because I choose to, not because I have to. A simple life. Nothing about this is simple anymore. Then we'll figure out complicated together. He stopped dancing. Right there in the middle of the floor, couples swirling around them. Ruby. I know I messed up by not telling you. I know it's going to take time to rebuild trust. But I'm all in. Whatever you need from me, whatever compromises we have to make, I'm here. She studied his face. The same face she'd fallen for at the farmer's market. The same gentle eyes, the same crooked smile. The money hadn't changed him. Not really. It had just revealed things she hadn't known were there. I need honesty, she said. Complete honesty. No more secrets. Done. And I need you to understand. I'm not going to change who I am because of your money. I'm still going to work. Still going to sell at the farmer's market. Still going to be Ruby Hayes from Millbrook. Coleman, he corrected gently. Ruby Coleman. And I don't want you to change. I fell in love with who you are. Okay. She leaned her forehead against his. Then we're okay. We're going to be okay. Yeah. Yeah. He kissed her. Right there on the dance floor, in front of everyone who'd ever doubted them. And Ruby kissed him back, not caring who was watching. The night continued. More people approached, more questions, more thinly veiled attempts to get close to Reed's money. But Ruby stayed by his side, and he stayed by hers, and together they navigated the strangeness of their new reality. Around midnight, they escaped to the country club patio. The air was cooler out here, the stars bright overhead. Music drifted through the open doors. That was exhausting, Ruby admitted. Want to leave. Not yet. She sat on a bench, kicked off her heels. Her feet ached. I want to enjoy this for a minute. The quiet. Reed sat beside her. Loosened his tie. Do you regret it? Marrying me? No. The answer came instantly. Do you regret telling me the truth? No. He took her hand. I just regret not telling you sooner. Before we got married. You should have had all the information. Ruby was quiet, thinking. Would it have changed anything? I don't know. Maybe. Then maybe it's good you waited. She squeezed his hand. I got to fall in love with just Reed. Not Reed Coleman III. Billionaire. Just you. I'm still just me. I know. She smiled. I'm starting to believe that. A sound from the doorway. Ruby turned to see May standing there, looking uncomfortable in a borrowed dress. Sorry to interrupt, May said. But Ruby, there's something you should know. Jennifer's inside telling anyone who'll listen that you only married Reed for his money and you knew all along. Ruby's stomach dropped. What? She's saying you played him. That it was all calculated. May's face was tight with anger. Thought you'd want to know before it spreads too far. Reed was already standing, jaw clenched. I'll handle it. No. Ruby stood, slipped her shoes back on. We'll handle it. Together. They walked back inside. Jennifer held court near the bar, surrounded by her book club friends. Her voice carried across the room. Obviously she knew. Why else would she marry someone like that? She's not stupid. She was probably waiting for the right moment to. That's enough. Ruby's voice cut through the chatter. The room went silent. Jennifer turned eyes wide. Ruby. I was just lying. Ruby walked forward, Reed beside her. You were lying because you can't stand that I'm happy. That I found someone who loves me for who I am, not what I can do for him. That's not. You know what the sad part is. Ruby stopped a few feet away. I didn't marry Reed for money. I didn't even know about it. I married him because he's kind. Because he helped my grandmother with her garden when she was too weak to do it herself. Because he made me laugh when I wanted to cry. Because he stayed up with me the night she died, just holding me while I fell apart. That's who I married. The money is just background noise. Jennifer's face crumbled. For a moment, Ruby saw something genuine there. Envy, maybe, or regret. Then Jennifer lifted her chin. Easy to say now that you're rich. I was rich the whole time, Ruby said quietly. I just didn't know it. But you know what? I would have married Reed anyway. Can you say the same about Bobby? If he lost everything tomorrow, would you stay? Jennifer didn't answer. Didn't have to. The silence said enough. Bobby, to his credit, looked uncomfortable. Jennifer. Maybe we should go. They left. The crowd dispersed slowly. Conversations resuming in hushed tones. Ruby stood there, heart pounding, feeling like she'd just run a marathon. Reed pulled her close. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. She looked up at him. For us. For me. Because I'm tired of people making assumptions about who we are. I love you, he said simply. I love you too. She meant it. Completely. Take me home. Absolutely. They left the gala hand in hand, not saying goodbye to anyone. The night air was warm, the stars bright. Reed's truck rumbled to life, familiar and comforting. On the drive home, Ruby's phone buzzed. Text after text. Apologies from people who'd been cold to them. Invitations from people who suddenly wanted to be friends. Ruby deleted them without reading. You okay? Reed asked. Better than okay. She looked out the window at the fields rolling past. Dark and peaceful. I think I finally understand something. What's that? The money doesn't define you. And it doesn't define us. We define us. She turned to look at him. As long as we're honest with each other, as long as we're a team, we can handle anything. He reached over, took her hand. Team Coleman. Team Coleman, she agreed. They pulled into the farm driveway. The old house looked small and perfect under the moonlight. Home. Their home. Ruby knew there would be more challenges ahead. More people wanting things from them. More adjustments to make. But sitting there with Reed, their hands linked, she felt ready. They'd figure it out. Together. The week after the gala, Ruby woke to find Reed gone. Not gone. His truck was in the driveway. But the bed was empty, still warm where he'd been sleeping. She found a note on the kitchen table. Had to take a call. Important. Love you. She made coffee. Waited. The sun came up, painting the fields gold. Reed didn't come back inside. By 8 o'clock, Ruby was worried. She pulled on jeans and walked out to the barn. Reed stood in the empty stall where her grandmother used to keep her horse. Phone pressed to his ear. His voice carried through the morning air. Sharp, commanding, nothing like the gentle tone he used with her. I don't care what the board thinks, Marcus. We're not moving forward with the acquisition if it means laying off 300 people. Find another way or kill the deal. Ruby froze. She'd never heard him like this. Hard. Certain. Every inch the billionaire CEO he'd claimed he wasn't. The bottom line isn't the only line that matters, Reed continued. These are real people with families. We're not destroying lives for profit margins. I said no, Marcus. That's final. He paused. Listened. Then they can vote me out. But until they do, this is my company and we do things my way. He ended the call. Stood there for a moment, shoulders tight. Then he turned and saw Ruby in the doorway. His expression shifted immediately. The CEO vanished. Her Reed returned. Hey. Sorry, did I wake you? No. She walked into the barn. The smell of hay and old wood surrounded them. Important call? Just business. He pocketed his phone. Nothing for you to worry about. Reed. She crossed her arms. We said honesty. Complete honesty. He sighed. Ran a hand through his hair. The company wants to acquire a manufacturing plant. Good investment. But it would mean closing their current facility and consolidating operations. 300 people would lose their jobs. And you said no. I said no. He looked tired suddenly. The board thinks I'm being naive. They're probably right. But I can't. I can't put profit over people. I've seen what happens when companies do that. My father built Coleman Tech on the principle that we take care of our workers. I'm not abandoning that. Ruby studied him. This was a side of Reed she hadn't seen. The man who made decisions that affected hundreds of lives. The weight he carried that she'd never noticed. How often do you take calls like that? Couple times a week. More if there's a crisis. He met her eyes. I know I said I was mostly hands-off. And I am compared to before. But I can't completely walk away. Too many people depend on the company. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want you to think I was lying about wanting a simple life. He took a step closer. I do want this, Ruby. The farm. You. Peace. But I also have responsibilities. People who need me to show up and make the right calls. Ruby processed this. Another layer. Another truth. What else haven't you told me? What do you mean? What else are you hiding? More companies. Secret investments. A private island somewhere. Actually. Reed. 2 islands, he admitted. But I've never been to them. My grandfather bought them as investments. And yes, there are other holdings. Real estate. Tech startups. A venture capital firm. It's a lot. Ruby felt dizzy. She sat on an overturned bucket. How much is a lot? The $3.2 billion is just my personal wealth. The company's worth about $15 billion. Maybe more. I stopped keeping exact track. 15 billion. The words felt foreign in her mouth. Reed. That's. I can't even comprehend that much money. I know. He knelt in front of her. That's why I didn't tell you. Because it's too big. Too much. And I didn't want it to come between us. It already is between us. She looked at him. Every time you take a call like that, every time you make a decision that affects hundreds of lives, that's not simple, Reed. That's not the life we talked about. I know. His voice cracked. But I don't know how to step away completely. These people, they're counting on me. And what about me? The question came out smaller than she meant it. I'm counting on you too. To be present. To be honest. To be the man I married. I am that man. Are you? Ruby stood, paced the barn. Because that man on the phone, that wasn't the Reed who fixes tractors and helps at the farmer's market. That was someone else. Someone I don't know. Ruby, please. Her phone rang. She almost ignored it, but the caller ID said Millbrook Community Hospital. Ice flooded her veins. Hello. Mrs. Coleman? This is Nurse Peterson. Your mother was brought in about an hour ago. She collapsed at her bridge club. We need you to come in. The world tilted. Is she okay? The doctor will explain when you get here. But you should come now. Ruby hung up. Looked at Reed. My mom. Hospital. I'll drive. He was already moving, keys in hand. They made it to the hospital in 10 minutes. Ruby barely remembered the drive. The emergency room was too bright, too cold. A nurse led them to a curtained area where Ruby's mother lay in a hospital bed, looking small and gray. Ruby. Her mother's voice was weak. I'm sorry to scare you. What happened? Ruby took her hand. Just a dizzy spell. They're running tests. Her mother smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I'm sure it's nothing. A doctor appeared, young, serious. Mrs. Hayes. I'm Dr. Patel. We've run some preliminary tests. Your blood pressure is dangerously high, and your heart rhythm is irregular. We need to admit you for observation and run more comprehensive tests. Ruby's hand tightened on her mother's. How serious is this? Potentially very serious. The good news is we caught it early. But you're going to need treatment. Medication at minimum, possibly surgery depending on what we find. Her mother's face went pale. Surgery? I can't afford. Mom, don't worry about that. Ruby, I don't have that kind of money. And I'm not taking charity. It's not charity. Ruby looked at Reed. He nodded. We'll take care of it. I can't let you do that. You don't have a choice. Ruby's voice was firm. You're my mother. Let me help you. Her mother's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. For how I reacted when you married Reed. For saying those things. I just wanted better for you. I have better, Mom. I have Reed. And that's enough. The doctor cleared his throat. We're going to move you to a room upstairs. Mrs. Coleman, you can stay with her if you'd like. Ruby nodded. Reed squeezed her shoulder. I'll make some calls. Make sure she has the best care available. Reed. It's what we do for family, Ruby. No arguments. He left. Ruby sat with her mother, holding her hand while nurses bustled around them. Her mother looked so fragile. When had she gotten old? He's good to you, her mother said quietly. Reed. I see that now. He is. I was wrong to judge him, to care more about what he had than who he was. Her mother's grip tightened. Don't make the same mistake I did, Ruby. Don't let money, his or anyone's, become more important than love. I won't, Ruby promised. But later, sitting in the hospital room while her mother slept, Ruby wasn't so sure. Reed had been gone for hours. She'd called twice. Both times he'd answered, stressed, apologetic. I'm handling things. Making sure your mom has everything she needs. I'll be back soon. But soon stretched into evening. Into night. Ruby paced the hallway, exhausted and wired. Her phone buzzed. A text from Reed. Dr. Morrison is the best cardiac surgeon in the state. I'm flying him in tomorrow. He'll take care of everything. I'm sorry I can't be there. Emergency board meeting I can't miss. I love you. She stared at the text. He'd arranged for the best surgeon. Probably saved her mother's life with a single phone call. But he wasn't here. She needed him here, and he was in some boardroom somewhere, making million-dollar decisions. May arrived around 8 with coffee and sandwiches. How is she? Stable. They're running more tests tomorrow. Ruby took the coffee gratefully. Thank you for coming. Where's Reed? Working. The word tasted bitter. May raised an eyebrow. Working. His wife's mother is in the hospital and he's working. It's complicated. It shouldn't be. May sat beside her. Ruby. I know he's been good to you. But if he can't be here when you need him. He arranged for the best surgeon in the state. He's paying for everything. That's money, not presents. May's voice was gentle but firm. You need him here. Does he know that? Ruby didn't answer. Didn't know how to explain that Reed was probably helping hundreds of people with whatever crisis had pulled him away. That his absence wasn't about her. It was about responsibility. Duty. But May was right. It shouldn't be complicated. When your wife needs you, you show up. Ruby pulled out her phone. Called Reed. It went to voicemail. She tried again. Same thing. At midnight, he finally called back. Ruby, I'm so sorry. The meeting ran long. How's your mom? Stable. Dr. Morrison is coming tomorrow. Thank you for that. Of course. He sounded exhausted. I'm on my way now. Be there in 20 minutes. Reed. Ruby took a breath. Where were you tonight? Really? Silence. Then. Chicago. Emergency board meeting. The acquisition deal, it fell through. There were complications. I had to be there. You flew to Chicago. I had to, Ruby. The jobs of 300 people were on the line. And my mother was in the hospital. Her voice rose. 2 nurses looked over. Ruby lowered her voice. I needed you here. Not making calls, not arranging doctors. Here. With me. I know. I'm sorry. I'm coming now. Don't. The word surprised her. Just. Don't. Finish what you need to finish. I'll be fine. Ruby. She hung up. Sat there in the too bright hallway. Coffee going cold in her hands and cried. May pulled her close. Didn't say anything. Just held her while Ruby fell apart. When she finally stopped crying, May handed her a tissue. What are you going to do? I don't know. Ruby wiped her eyes. I love him. But I don't know if I can live like this. Never knowing when he'll have to leave. Never being the priority. Maybe you need to tell him that. Maybe. Her phone buzzed. Another text from Reed. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to figure out how to do both. Be your husband and handle the responsibilities I have. I don't want to lose you. Please don't give up on us. Ruby read it twice. Then put her phone away. She didn't know what to say. Didn't know if there was anything to say. The night stretched on. Her mother slept. Machines beeped. And Ruby sat in a plastic chair, wondering if love was enough when you wanted different lives. Dr. Morrison arrived at 7 in the morning with a team of specialists. Ruby watched through the window as they examined her mother, consulted charts, spoke in medical jargon she couldn't follow. Reed hadn't come back. The surgery was scheduled for that afternoon. It's relatively routine, Dr. Morrison assured Ruby. We'll insert a pacemaker to regulate her heartbeat. Recovery should be straightforward. Relatively routine still meant her mother would be unconscious. A surgeon's hands working on her heart. Ruby signed consent forms with shaking hands. May had gone home to shower. Ruby sat alone in the waiting room, surrounded by magazines she couldn't focus on and morning news shows she didn't hear. Her phone rang. Reed. She let it go to voicemail. It rang again. And again. On the 4th call, she answered. What? Ruby. Please. I'm at the airport. I'll be there in an hour. His voice was raw. I know I messed up. I know I should have been there last night. But I'm coming now. Your mom's surgery. I want to be there for you. It's a little late for that. I know. But I'm trying. Please, Ruby. Give me a chance to make this right. She wanted to hang up. Wanted to tell him to stay in Chicago or wherever he was. But the truth was, she wanted him there. Needed him there. Even if she was angry. Fine, she said. But Reed, we need to talk. Really talk. About what this is. What we're doing. I know. We will. I promise. Relief flooded his voice. I love you. She hung up without saying it back. Her mother was wheeled into surgery at 2. Ruby kissed her forehead. Promised everything would be okay. Then she was alone again in the waiting room. Time stretching elastic and strange. Reed arrived at 2:30. He looked terrible. Rumpled suit, dark circles under his eyes, hair disheveled. He'd clearly come straight from wherever he'd been. Ruby. He crossed the waiting room in 3 strides. How is she? In surgery. They said 2 hours. Ruby didn't stand. Didn't move to hug him. You flew from Chicago? Chartered a plane. Fastest way. He sat beside her, careful not to touch. I'm sorry. For last night. For not being here. Why weren't you? She looked at him finally. And don't tell me it was the board meeting. Tell me the truth. Why did 300 strangers matter more than me? He flinched. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Reed leaned forward, elbows on his knees. The deal fell through because I said no to the layoffs. The board called an emergency meeting to discuss removing me as CEO. If they succeeded, the new CEO would approve the acquisition. Those people would lose their jobs anyway. So you went to fight for them? Yes. And won. Barely. By 2 votes. He looked at her. But Ruby, you're right. I should have been here. Even if those jobs were on the line. Even if the board voted me out. You needed me. That should have been enough. Ruby felt tears threaten. I don't know how to do this. Be married to someone whose phone call can affect hundreds of lives. Who has to fly to Chicago in the middle of the night for emergency meetings. That's not the life I signed up for. I know. His voice broke. I know I misrepresented things. Made it seem like I could just walk away from the company, live a simple life. But the truth is, I can't. Not completely. There are too many people depending on me. Then what are we doing? The question hung between them. Are we staying married? Are we trying to make this work? Or are we just delaying the inevitable? Reed was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. I don't want to lose you. But I don't know how to be both things. The CEO my company needs and the husband you deserve. I'm failing at both. You're not failing. Ruby wiped her eyes. You're trying to live 2 lives. And I don't think anyone can do that successfully. So what do I do? Walk away from the company? Let it fall apart? Let those people lose their jobs because I want a quiet life on a farm? I don't know. She looked at her hands. But I can't be the reason you resent your responsibilities. And I can't spend our marriage coming second to board meetings and crisis calls. We're stuck. Maybe there's a middle ground. Reed turned to face her. What if we moved? Not to Chicago or New York. But closer. Somewhere I could get to the office when needed. Somewhere you could still have land, still farm, still be you. But I could be there for dinner. Be there when you need me. You want to leave Millbrook? I want to be with you. If that means leaving Millbrook, then yes. Ruby thought about the farm. Her grandmother's house. The life she'd built there. Could she leave it? But then she thought about last night. Sitting alone in the hospital, needing Reed and not having him. That couldn't keep happening. I'll think about it, she said finally. That's all I ask. They sat in silence. The clock ticked. Other families came and went, their own dramas playing out in whispered conversations and tight embraces. Dr. Morrison emerged at 4:15. Ruby jumped up. "The surgery went well," he said, smiling. "Your mother did great. She's in recovery now. You can see her in about an hour." Ruby sagged with relief. Reed caught her, pulled her close. This time she let him. "Thank you," Reed said to the doctor. "For coming. For taking care of her. Of course. She'll need to take it easy for a few weeks, but she should make a full recovery." Dr. Morrison nodded to them both. "She's lucky to have you too." He left. Ruby buried her face in Reed's chest. He smelled like airplane and stress and faintly of the cologne he'd been wearing at the gala. Familiar. Hers. "I'm so mad at you," she mumbled against his shirt. "I know. And I love you." "I know that too." He kissed the top of her head. "I'm going to figure this out, Ruby. I promise. I'm going to find a way to be both things. To have both lives. Or I'll choose. But I won't lose you. I can't." "You might have to choose," she said quietly. "I don't think there's a way to have both. Not really." "Then I'll choose you." He pulled back, looked at her. "If it comes down to it, if I have to choose between the company and you, I choose you. Every time. Reed. I mean it. The money, the company, the responsibilities, they don't mean anything if I don't have you." Ruby wanted to believe him. But words were easy. It was the actions that counted. Her mother woke up groggy but smiling. Ruby sat beside her bed, holding her hand while Reed stood in the corner, giving them space. "How do you feel?" Ruby asked. "Like I got hit by a truck." Her mother's laugh was weak. "But alive. That's something. Dr. Morrison says you'll make a full recovery." "Good. I have a daughter to see happy. Grandchildren to spoil someday." She looked past Ruby to Reed. "Thank you. For bringing Dr. Morrison. For taking care of me." "Your family," Reed said simply. "It's what we do." Her mother nodded. Closed her eyes. "You too. You're going to figure it out. Whatever's between you right now. You'll find your way." After she fell asleep, Ruby and Reed walked to the hospital cafeteria. Bad coffee and stale sandwiches. But Ruby didn't care. She was too tired to care about anything. "I've been thinking," Reed said, stirring his coffee mechanically. "About what you said. About choosing." "Reed. Let me finish. Please." He set down his spoon. "I've spent my whole life thinking I had to be what everyone else needed. What my father would have wanted. What the board expects. What 300 employees depend on. And I lost myself in it. Became someone I didn't even recognize." "Is that why you came to Millbrook?" "Yeah. To remember who I was before all of it. And I found you. You reminded me what it felt like to be real. To matter because of who I am, not what I have." His voice roughened. "But I've been selfish. Thinking I could have both worlds. That I could be your husband and still play CEO whenever the company needed me. That's not fair to you. So what are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm going to step down. From the CEO position. Not from the board. I'll still have input, still make sure the company stays on track. But day-to-day operations? Someone else can handle it. Someone who can give it the attention it needs." Ruby's heart stuttered. "Reed. That's your family's legacy. You're my future. There's a difference." He reached across the table, took her hand. "I can't be the husband you need if I'm constantly pulled between two worlds. So I'm choosing. I'm choosing us. That's a huge decision. You can't make it right now in a hospital cafeteria because you feel guilty." "I'm not making it because I feel guilty. I'm making it because I finally understand what matters. And Ruby, it's you. It's this. It's building a life together that we both want, not one where I'm always halfway gone." She looked at their joined hands. His calloused palm against hers. "What if you regret it?" "I won't. You don't know that." "I do." He squeezed her hand. "Because I already know what it's like to lose you. I felt it last night when you hung up. When I knew I'd chosen wrong. And it was the worst feeling I've ever had. Worse than any board meeting, any failed deal, any professional disappointment. Because none of that matters if I don't have you. Ruby felt tears slide down her cheeks. You mean it. Every word. He came around the table, knelt beside her chair. I'm all in, Ruby. Completely. No more halfway. No more trying to balance two lives. Just us. Just this. Whatever that looks like. She pulled him up, kissed him. He tasted like bad coffee and promises. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. Okay, she whispered. Okay. But Reed, if you're going to step down, do it because it's what you want. Not because you think it's what I need. It is what I want. He cupped her face. I want mornings on the porch. I want to fix the tractor when it breaks. I want to grow old with you on that farm. That's my dream. The company was my father's dream. It's time I lived my own. They stayed like that for a long moment, the cafeteria bustling around them, choosing each other in the fluorescent light. And for the first time since the lawyers had arrived, Ruby felt like they might actually make it. Reed announced his resignation as CEO 3 weeks later. The business world erupted. Articles speculated about his reasons. Health problems, family drama, a failed romance. Reed ignored all of it. He released one statement. I'm stepping down to focus on what truly matters. My family. Thank you for understanding. The board appointed Marcus Brennan, Reed's second in command, as the new CEO. Reed stayed on the board, checking in remotely once a week. But the daily grind, the emergency calls, the constant pull, it ended. He came home. Ruby watched him adjust over the following months. Some days were easier than others. He'd get restless, check his phone too much, clearly missing the adrenaline of high-stakes decisions. But then he'd catch himself, put the phone down, and find something to do with his hands. Fix the fence. Repair the barn door. Help at the farmer's market. Slowly he settled. Became more himself. The Reed she'd fallen in love with, but deeper now. More present. Ruby's mother recovered fully. The pacemaker worked perfectly. She started coming to Sunday dinners at the farm again. Humbler now, kinder to Reed, grateful for the second chance she'd been given. Jennifer stopped coming around. Ruby heard through May that Jennifer and Bobby had broken up. Something about him taking a job in Seattle and Jennifer refusing to leave Millbrook. Ruby felt a small pang of sympathy. Not enough to reach out. Some bridges stayed burned. By fall, Ruby and Reed had found their rhythm. He worked mornings at the auto shop, not because he had to, but because he liked it. She ran the farmer's market stand, selling tomatoes and squash and her grandmother's famous pickles. They had lunch together most days, sitting on the porch with sandwiches and sweet tea. Evenings, they'd walk the property, planning what to plant next season. Sometimes Reed's phone would ring. Board business, something urgent. He'd take the call, handle it efficiently, then come back to her. No longer torn. Just handling a responsibility and returning to his life. Their life. One Saturday morning in late October, Ruby found Reed in the barn, standing in front of the empty stall where her grandmother's horse used to live. Thinking about getting a horse? She asked. He turned, smiled. Actually, I was thinking about something else. He pulled an envelope from his pocket. I have something to show you. Ruby opened it. Inside was a legal document. She scanned it, confused. Then the words registered. Hayes Family Trust. Endowment. $50 million. What is this? It's for the farm. And for Millbrook. Reed moved beside her. I've been working on it for a while. The trust will provide funding for family farms in the area. Low-interest loans, grants for equipment, support for farmers markets. Everything your grandmother would have wanted. Ruby's vision blurred. Reed. It's in your name. You'll run it. Make the decisions about who gets help and how much. I'll just be the guy who writes the checks. This is... She couldn't find words. This is incredible. Your grandmother taught me something, Reed said quietly. That summer before she died. She told me that money wasn't about having power over people. It was about helping them have power over their own lives. And I thought, what better way to use what I have than to make sure other families don't lose their land, that they don't have to worry about foreclosure notices or bank threats. Ruby threw her arms around him. I love you. I love you too. He held her tight. This is what I want my legacy to be. Not Coleman Tech. Not boardrooms and acquisitions. This. Helping people. With you. They stood like that, the barn quiet around them, building something new together. The first loan from the Hayes Family Trust went to Tucker Williams, a young farmer trying to keep his grandfather's land. The second went to May, who wanted to expand the feed store but couldn't get a bank loan. By spring, 12 families had been helped. By summer, 25. Ruby ran the trust with the same fierce dedication she'd given the farmers market. She visited each farm personally, understood their needs, made sure the money went where it would help most. Reed supported her, drove her to meetings, listened to her talk about soil quality and irrigation systems and the best time to plant soybeans. He was happy. Really, truly happy. Ruby could see it in the way he smiled now. Easy and genuine, not the careful smile he'd worn before. In the way he slept through the night without his phone on the nightstand. In the way he'd grab her hand while they walked the fence line and just hold it, content to be present. One evening in June, a year after the lawyers had first appeared, Ruby found Reed on the porch swing. The sun was setting, painting everything gold. He had his guitar, the one she'd bought him for Christmas, and was playing softly. I didn't know you could play, she said, sitting beside him. Learned when I was a kid. Gave it up when I took over the company. No time. He strummed a chord. Picked it back up. Figured I should fill the quiet with something other than work. What are you playing? Nothing specific. Just seeing what sounds good. He set down the guitar, pulled her close. You know what I realized today? What? I haven't thought about the company in 3 days. Didn't check stock prices. Didn't wonder what the board was doing. I just lived. Worked on the truck, helped you at the market, had lunch with your mom. Normal life. And I didn't miss it. The stress, the pressure. I don't miss it at all. Ruby rested her head on his shoulder. I'm proud of you. For walking away. For choosing this. Best decision I ever made. Well, second best. He kissed her temple. Marrying you is still number one. Smooth talker. I try. They sat as the stars came out. Crickets sang. Somewhere in the fields, a night bird called. It was everything Ruby had ever wanted. Peace, love, a partner who showed up. Not because he had to. Because he chose to. Reed. She said quietly. Yeah. Thank you. For being exactly who I needed you to be. Right back at you, he murmured. Inside, Ruby's phone rang. She ignored it. Whatever it was could wait. This moment, sitting with her husband on the porch of the farm that had been saved, building a life they'd chosen together. This was what mattered. The phone stopped ringing. The evening settled around them. And Ruby knew, with the kind of certainty that sank into bones, that they were going to make it. Not because everything was perfect, but because they'd chosen each other over and over, through every complication. That was enough. That was everything. 5 years later. The farm looked different now. Ruby parked her truck, a new one finally, though she'd kept it modest, and climbed out. The old barn had been restored, red paint gleaming. The fields were full of vegetables. The Hayes Family Trust office sat where the old shed used to be, a small building where Ruby and 2 full-time staff managed over 100 loans. She walked up to the house. Music drifted through the open windows. Zach Bryan, Reed's current favorite. The smell of something delicious cooking. Inside, Reed stood at the stove, flour on his jeans, stirring a pot. Their daughter, 3 years old, dark curls and green eyes, sat at the kitchen table, coloring with determined focus. Mama. Emma jumped down, ran over. Ruby scooped her up. Hey, baby. What are you drawing? Horses. Daddy says we're getting one. Ruby raised an eyebrow at Reed. Are we? Maybe. He grinned, unrepentant. Her birthday's coming up. She's turning 4, Reed. Not 14. But she wants a horse. Emma nodded vigorously against Ruby's shoulder. A white one. With spots. We'll see, Ruby said. The universal parent deflection. She set Emma down. Go wash up for dinner. Emma ran off. Ruby moved to Reed, slipped her arms around him from behind. How was your day? Good. Fixed Mrs. Henderson's car. Picked Emma up from preschool. Made spaghetti. He turned in her arms, kissed her properly. Missed you. Missed you too. She had been in the capital, meeting with state representatives about expanding the trust statewide. Long day. Good day. But she was glad to be home. They ate dinner as a family. Emma chattered about her day. Painting, snack time, her best friend Lucas. Reed and Ruby exchanged glances over her head. That silent parent communication that said she's perfect and ours and we're so lucky. After Emma was in bed, Ruby and Reed sat on the porch. Same swing, different life. Governor's office approved the expansion, Ruby said. We'll be able to help farms in 6 more counties by next year. That's amazing. Reed squeezed her hand. Your grandmother would be so proud. Our grandmother, Ruby corrected. She loved you, you know. Even before she knew about the money. I know. She told me once, about a month before she died, that I was good for you. That I made you laugh. His voice went soft. I think she knew. About the money. She never said anything, but the way she'd look at me sometimes. She knew. Ruby thought about it. Her grandmother had been sharp until the very end. Probably. She was good at seeing what mattered. They rocked gently. Emma's nightlight glowed in the upstairs window. The farm stretched around them, solid and real and theirs. Hey, Ruby. Reed said. Yeah. I'm happy. Simple words. But the weight behind them, everything they'd been through, everything they'd built, made them mean everything. Me too, she said. Me too. And in the soft summer dark, surrounded by the life they'd chosen, that was the truth. The billionaire and the farm girl. The mechanic and his wife. It didn't matter what anyone called them. They were just Reed and Ruby Coleman. And they were home. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.